Yeah, buddy, got a couple of firearms out here. Take some shots with. Yes, Krag, 30-40 Krag rifle. Pretty cool, huh? So yes, I'll see you in a minute. We'll shoot this Colt revolver and this 30-40 Krag a couple of times. Probably yak about some stupid things too. Got a few targets out there to shoot. So stay with me and I'll be right back. Hey, Colt 45 here. Yes, your big dumb internet shooting companion about to fire some shots. Let's do it. Right on the gong. How about the coffin? All right, send him to the grave. How about a 2-liter right here somewhere? Man. Oh boy, I'll try a red plate. Smack. Love the sound of that. And let's put one on the propane tank to empty it. Yes, the Krag, 30-40 Krag. Pretty cool, huh? Springfield Armory. Yes, man, I carried this in the Spanish-American War. Pretty cool. Actually, I didn't. That was a joke. But yes, hey, Colt 45 here, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the beautiful barren hills of Middle Tennessee, the warmer hills of Middle Tennessee than last week, for sure. The home, Ronnie Millsaps, right? Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, oh man, okay, Buford Pusser, Dolly Parton, Alvin York, all sorts of people at least have lived here extensively. Maybe they were not born here. It's okay, we claim them. We claim them. So glad you're back. And oh yeah, it's a little warmer. Look at that, the snow is gone. That's Tennessee. That's Tennessee last week for you. It was cold and in a lot of places, right? In a big mystery. And Midwest, the South, and everywhere it was really, really cold. For us, it was really cold. And snowy, ice, and all kinds of things. And it's kind of typical of Tennessee. We don't have much weather like we had last week, but it is very, very typical to have some cold weather, maybe a little snow, not much, and some ice. And then a couple of days later, it's like this, and very comfy, you know, almost balmy, 50, 60 degrees or something. So, and that's nice. That's nice in a lot of ways. You don't have the hard, cruel winters where just snow gets on the ground and is there for 2 or 3 months, you know. So it's like this most of the time. A little chillier, it's a little warm. We're still in February, so a little warm for February, but that's okay. We'll take it. I'll never forget being in college up in Clarksville, in Austin Peay, and I was from northern Kentucky, you know, just about 10 miles south of Cincinnati in that area. And we had more snow, and winters were a little more harsh, especially back then. You know, I was back when I had to walk 10 miles to school, uphill both ways. I mean, to sound like that, but I think winters were cooler back then a little bit. I don't know. More snow, at least, I think up there even than they get now, maybe. But I remember coming to school, and it was January. I don't know what time in January, but I'll never forget driving through Clarksville. I was in school, coming up a hill there by the bank, Northern Bank of Tennessee or something, a bank I actually used when I was in college there. Up this hill, heading west, I guess, and there was if you're from Clarksville, you might remember it, the bank had a temperature thing readout there, big one in front of the bank, the time and temperature, you know, I think it'll go back and forth, and it was 70 degrees, and it was January. It was kind of a day like, you know, we've had this week a couple of days, so it was really really weird. I thought, this is not in Kansas anymore. So actually, and you all know this if you've traveled, you don't have to travel a great distance further south to sometimes get a kind of a significant difference in weather. You know, where I live, I'm at a little higher elevation than Nashville, but I'm like 20 minutes out of Nashville, and it's 4 or 5 degrees cooler here usually than it is in Nashville, at least in the winter, through the winter months. I don't know about in the summer, but it is. I mean, if I look at the weather, look at the projection and everything for any particular day of the week or whatever, often it'll be, well, it's gonna be 65, you know, in Nashville, but 60 out here or something, 61. And just not that far, just 20 minutes away. And again, part of that's elevation. And then if you go in further from Nashville south to, I don't know, Birmingham, which is what, a couple hours drive or something? Hour and a half, a couple hours, I guess. Huntsville even, which is not that far. And you again, you see another difference, you know. So anyway, that's my weather report and my geographical study for you. So glad you're here, and I got a couple of, hardly anybody loads for that. And today I have the 3040 Krag, and not a lot of ammo being pumped out for the 3040 Krag, you know, by anybody. I think Remington makes their core lock, and some of this I had left over from, gosh, forever. I bought some when I found it. I don't think it's Bitterroot Valley. I don't know if they're even in business anymore, but I've had that for a while. So just PP. Oh, excuse me. Oh, hurt my hand. PPU, actually, it's not quite healed. I fell over here, believe it or not. Gosh, it's been 2 or 3 months ago. Probably ought to have it x-rayed. I slipped on a pumpkin revenge. I may have told you about that. I really did. Boy, it's not even very steep where I was. I just hit that pumpkin. It was kind of cold, and it had almost frozen, one of those deals. Pumpkin I had shot, I had murdered. And so it got revenge on me. I went down just as if I were walking along right here. Now there's no ice really anywhere, and hit a patch of ice or something about that big. And you can how fast you go down when you're not expecting anything like that. And that same old deal. In your hands, you always try to stop yourself. And I don't think it was I don't know. We'll find out maybe one day. I have to get it x-rayed. But unless I'm really hurting, I just don't get run to the doctor, you know. I mean, I've got serious mental issues, but yeah, I can still get around a little bit, so I don't go to a psychiatrist. I should, right? But back to ammo, you know, I'm always shooting something weird, I guess, and I have 2 or 3 firearms that are chambered for things that federal doesn't load, and that's pretty hard to do. You probably don't. You know, some of you do, but most of you don't. You don't have a 4440 or a 3040 Krag, maybe, you know, kind of thing. What is it? There's another one that they don't load that I have. I think what it is. But anyway, enough on all that. I'm going to take some shots. So we appreciate all the help we get, and I do have a firearm. Speaking of buds, I requested the new Walther PDP, is it called? So they're going to get us, you know, 1 or 2 of those here before too long, I think, when they're out there. You know, we're available. We don't try to get guns early. You know, we don't. You know, we get tied into that and having to do a review that where we're kind of obligated, you know, to the company a little bit or so. So we're just trying to wait till they're out a while. And a lot of people have been asking us about that gun. It happens every time a new firearm comes out. And a lot of people are still perplexed, I think. Oh my God, you're Hickok 45. Can't you get that gun? You know, Hickok 45 doesn't mean much. I'm just a goofball. And, you know, don't really try. After a firearm's been out there, we get about 1 million requests, you know, I'll check in with buds and see if they're getting any in, you know, and say, yeah, we'll send you one, we'll get them. And so that's got one of those coming. I mean, I do enjoy trying new firearms. That's what I do. Just new is relative, you know. If I hadn't fired a 3040 Krag, I'd be shooting a new gun today. That's the way I look at it. It would be new to me. So anyway, this is a neat rifle. Can I shoot it again? I will. And I've got this other gun you haven't seen very close yet. And this is everything will record. Yeah. This is a single action, if you can't tell, right? It is a Colt, not a Colt single action Army. It's a Colt Frontier Scout. Got this borrowed. It's actually borrowed from Simpson Unlimited in Galesburg, Illinois. You've heard me mention them before. they have just vintage guns, older guns, vintage gun. May not be like all antiques, or something from the 80s or 90s, discontinued, or just that's what they specialize in. And I don't know that everything's discontinued. They probably even have a Glock Gen 1 or 2 or something. I don't know. It's just older guns is what they specialize in. And so we borrow from them occasionally, and this is from them. So I'll be sending it back to them after we do a video or two with it. It's the Frontier Scout, Colt Frontier Scout. Came out in the 50s, 57 I think. And this one was a 68 model, 1968. And it's a 22 long rifle / 22 Magnum. Has 2 cylinders. It's convertible. And so kind of neat. Thought I'd shoot it another time here before I send it back. We may do one more video with it. So I had it, it's a little dirty, and so been shooting it a little bit. Pretty neat little revolver. It's a Colt. You know, anything with Colt on it tends to be expensive, but by the same token, it tends to hold its value. You know, even if you don't like Colt, in my gun collecting and shooting days, I run into people occasionally. I remember one fellow, I don't even remember who he was now. Someone, an acquaintance at a gun shop, or I don't remember who it was. But I remember he talked about only just collecting Colts. I mean, if it was a Colt, and he didn't even shoot them all. He was really kind of a collector for the appreciation value of it, you know, later down the road, or to leave to his kids or grandkids or something. Because something with Colt on it is going to always be easy to sell and maintain its value. That was his position. He's pretty much correct. It's not like you're gonna get rich just because it got Colt on it. And it may not be made, you know, disclaimer, I'm well aware, just because it has Colt on it doesn't mean it's made better than everything else, does it? Sometimes it just means it's more expensive and it's no better and maybe not as good as something else, right? But generally speaking, you know, Colts, even Smith & Wesson, your big names like that, Ruger, they don't make junk generally. They can mess up, but they don't make junk usually. They pretty much stick with their reputation, okay? Then occasionally they have a firearm that's not exactly right, or some stupid design maybe that doesn't sell, but generally speaking, you know, I mean, Smith, all those major companies, you're gonna get your, well, if you get your money back, but they're gonna hold their value pretty well, at least as well as any other firearm, unless it's an antique firearm or a Class 3 or something that's gonna maybe appreciate instead of depreciate. But yeah, so my little lecture there on Colt, but that's what that is. And it's a, you know, it's a scaled down version of their Colt Single Action Army in 22 and 22 Magnum, and it's really popular. You know, this and the Ruger Single 6 were very popular, little 22s in the 50s and 60s. All the Westerns, everybody, it's hard for you to imagine if you're young, but you see it in me, of course. I'm a cowboy wannabe because I grew up a cowboy. Oh my gosh, talk about perfect timing. You know, I was born in 50, and that's when the cowboy series movies were in their heyday. And so all week long there were, you know, Bonanza or Paladin or the Lone Ranger, and Saturday was like just one after the other. And then even at night, the main TV shows, Gunsmoke, Bonanza, that the whole family would watch. Imagine that, you know, 3 channels, and those shows would just dominate the ratings because everybody watched them. You know, I'm sure a lot of kids and maybe wives didn't really that interested in them, but they were the main shows. And that's one reason, if you're looking up an old, come to think of it, you're watching, you've got the Westerns channel like I do, or some of the other TV Land, whatever it is, Me channel, wherever they show all these things. You'll say, oh good, here's Bonanza. You know, I love to see little Joe whip out that gun, you know, and shoot, or whatever it is, or Hoss and his big hog leg and shoot, and his gun rig, or whatever it might be. And you'll tune in, and the storyline for that particular episode will be like in the title of it. They have titles, you know, like Hoss gets married or whatever it might be, you know, and it'll be kind of a romantic story. You know, Hoss meets some woman, and it's all lovey-dovey, and, you know, and he's about to get married and all that sort of thing. And of course, you know what is going to happen in a show like that. I saw one of those on the Big Valley recently, where It was Jared, the attorney son. The three sons living, they're all single, living in the mansion, whatever. Whenever one of the sons, just like Bonanza, you had 2 and 3 sons there, none of them are married. You just know if they meet a woman and they fall in love, quote unquote, well, just check your watch. Okay, I give this romance about, let's see, it's 20 minutes into the show. I give her another maybe 10 minutes, unless they finish her off at the very last of the show. She might last another 30 minutes. It's just a matter of time, right? What are you going to do? Okay, now from every episode going forward, Hoss is going to have a wife living at the Ponderosa. Or Jared is going to have a wife living there at the mansion with all the rest of them, with Heath and Nick and whatever. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. So we always joke about that, how that's the kiss of death. I mean, it's automatic, But anyway, back to my original point. You thought I lost it. The reason you're all set to see a shoot 'em up. You got your popcorn and everything, and you're ready to see a Western, kind of a gritty Western episode or something maybe. It's Bonanza or even the Big Valley or some of the others like that. Well, it's because, or even Gunsmoke in the later years, it was because it was a kind of a prime time show. It was a family show, really. The whole family was probably watching it. So it's not going to be just gunfights and standing in the street and face-offs and that sort of thing. There never was a lot of blood and gore in the old Westerns much. They weren't very graphic, as shows are now. But it wasn't going to be just that all the time. It'd be a mix, and sometimes you'd have a pretty gritty, episode and that kind of thing. But you're going to have something that's more for the whole family occasionally too. Some fluffy stuff that nobody's going to be offended by. So that's the main reason. Whereas now, if someone put together on HBO or something a Western series, like Deadwood or something, it's going to be really gritty because you got to go find that. You even have to pay a subscription, maybe, to HBO or Netflix, whatever it is. It's there, and you got a billion other choices. So if you've landed on that, it was intentional generally. And it's rated and you know what you're getting. And there's a million other fluffy shows if you want fluff and you don't want that, But that's the reason, okay? And I'm not going to charge any of you for that information if you never thought of that. But that's kind of the reason. The Rifleman's still one of my favorites. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I am talking about this, aren't I? The Rifleman is still one of my favorites. I think it wears the test of time just really well. And those were directed, I think, most of those by Peckinpah is part of the reason. They weren't like overly, what do I say? They didn't go crazy with special effects, and like getting their arm blown off and bleeding profusely. They're black and white for one thing. But they were pretty gritty. In almost every episode, you watch that, that music, I'm talking about. When the 3 bad guys ride into town. I mean, you just know there's always a sinister feeling and some characters almost every episode that are going to cause trouble. And guess who's going to fix things? The sheriff is going to try, right? But he's probably not going to succeed without Lucas McCain, the rifleman, right? But that's a great series because you don't really get that many episodes of that, that are. Trying to think, that was when that aired originally. If that was a Saturday morning thing, I don't know. It's been so long. We see these things in reruns most of my life. So when they were originally airing, I don't know when they aired exactly, but almost everyone was saying Peckinpah. It's not going to be too fluffy, is it? But just great, gosh, great characters and kind of a unique filming approach in that. Just a wonderful series. So there you go. Let's shoot this thing. Let me quit yakking. Okay, it has 2 cylinders. I had both of them in and out the last couple of days, and when I picked it up, it had the 22 Magnum cylinder in it. I was going to actually shoot 22 long rifles. I said, it doesn't matter. I don't shoot that much in one of these. I'll just put some. Here comes John in the. He's in his Buick Wildcat. Cool. Let's see. '67 Buick Wildcat. You've seen it, one of the videos. I forget which one it was. We ended it, and I was driving it. Big red Buick Wildcat. Believe it or not, I had one of those. I had a '63 Buick Wildcat. It had been my parents, and I kind of bought it from them, traded my first car back to them for it and all that. And when I was in college, I ended up with that. I had 3 different cars when I was in college. They were all older and used, and just for various reasons. Started out, I had a '55 Pontiac, which was my first car I ever bought. I bought it not in '55, I'm not that old. I bought it in about '67 with money I made from raising tobacco. We lived on a farm part of the time, and helping other farmers with their tobacco and all that. And then I ended up, finally I traded that. I just loved that convertible Wildcat that Mom and Dad had. And they were about to trade cars, or had traded cars or whatever. And so I traded them the Pontiac for it, $100 or something. I forgot what they gave me a deal, I'm sure. And drove that for a couple of years, but oh boy, it sucked the gas. Oh, what was it, 440 cubic inch? It was big engine, heavy car, and I was, a poor college kid basically. So I finally traded that, believe it or not, for a '65 VW bus, and that thing had problems. I've been better off buying the gas for the Wildcat. All right, let's shoot this gun. 22 Magnum. Let's hit the target. We're not done that yet, have we? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Let's do a 2-liter. Cool. I think that's all. Yep. 22 Magnum. Pretty potent little round, I'll have to say. And this is just like the Colt single action. It's the same type of action. You put it on half cock and pop the cartridge out. I've learned you got to pop them. Yeah, so you get on out of there. They're harder to pull out if you don't hit it hard. There we go. So you got the click and everything. Now it does have a frame mounted firing pin, so it's a little different in that regard. Okay. But yeah, that's a Colt Frontier Scout. Pretty cool little 22. They came out, Ruger came out with the single 6 before this in the early 50s, 53 I think. And that's when the market was just booming for anything cowboy related, westerns. And Colt was a little slow to get back into cranking out their guns because they had quit making the Colt single action during World War II. And so it prompted them when Ruger came out with some guns, early 50s, Colt got back into it. Okay, and that's hence their second generation Colt single actions, and then brought out some of these, lots of different models of it. But this one's 1968. You had plastic grips, and everything. I mean, it was a low end. I think it was like $50 or something when they came out with it, and now it's upward, $1,000 or something or more. But pretty neat because it's a Colt. It even has a pin barrel. Look at that. It's like a Smith & Wesson in the old days. So that's pretty neat. And then the other gun, of course, again, is the Krag carbine. You should have seen it. Maybe I'll link to the videos or two that we've done on this gun. And just a very unique, did you see me load it? Let me load it for you. Okay, I'll try to hold up here. This hatch, you've seen them like that. That opens up, and you just sort of push them in there. And you can have hang-up problems, but I typically don't. I mean, it works pretty well. A lot of people, especially back in the day, and still today, it's kind of popular to really trash this gun as being totally worthless in comparison with the Mauser, that the Spanish were carrying, Spanish-American War. And that is a better gun. The 7mm is probably a better cartridge. This is a 30-40 Krag. And the rifle was more solid, better rifle probably. The 5-round clip loading was probably better and all those other things. But it's not like this was a piece of junk. It actually works, Let's shoot something. All right, hit the gong. I like it. I like it. Partly because it's unique. You know, it appeals to the hipster, I think, in everybody, because it's just really nothing quite like that, the way that thing loads. Y'all can see that. Isn't that wild? The clip is more convenient. You know, you have them in your pocket and just slide them in there and go on. With your business, and it has a very smooth bolt, one of the smoothest bolts out there. Part of that's because it just doesn't lock up as tightly, doesn't have as many lugs on it and all that, but still, yeah, it'll do. It's nice, very convenient. I'd take it to war any day. Actually, I don't want to go to war. So, yeah, I don't know if I was going to talk about anything important. Probably not. I never do, right? Anything I forget last week? Anything I need to correct? Nah, not really, I guess. I don't know. I make so many mistakes. It would take me forever to correct them, you know. It just would. And my vocabulary word for the week might be gouging. I probably talked about that, but I see comments on a lot of, it's a common term used these days. I wonder why. I would just advise people to think before you use that term. Again, it gets back to understanding the way the world works, right, and economics. Not that I understand better than everybody. I mean, it's just kind of a fact that in a market-driven economy, supply and demand, prices are going to change. And I'm not trying to justify anybody, whether it's Walmart, do they sell ammo, or your local gun shop, or whoever. I see prices on ammo. I'll look if I'm in a gun shop, see what they're charging, if they have some ammo, and just out of curiosity. And I don't just immediately jump to, oh, these guys are gouging. I just assume they had to pay probably close to that to get it, or a lot to get it, you know. It's a supply and demand world when you get right down to it, whether you're talking about gasoline or precious metals, real estate, everything fluctuates based on the demand and the supply. It's the way the world works. The dollar, we don't think about it, because if I pull out a dollar, it's just $1. My dollar, let's see, oh, there's a 5. So this $5 bill it's not going to change. It's $5. So I think if we get kind of conditioned that these prices and things are just really locked in, well, even this $5 bill, that says 5 on it, that's not going to change, but it's worth less today than it was, a year ago. If we had some kind of meter built into every bill that was tied to the money supply, and boy, that's all complicated. I even actually study it some and try to, but I don't understand it, how it works, the central banks and the Fed and all that kind of thing. I know that the more money they print, the less it makes the value of this money right here in my hand or whatever, you know, and all that kind of thing. So if there was some kind of meter on every bill that when you picked it up out of your wallet, oh, okay, that was it was worth $5.20 before. Now it's $4.68 and a half or something today or this week, or, you know, based on the money supply and the world market, the value of the dollar internationally and all that kind of thing. And so that's kind of a real thing, but it's reflected in what this will buy, what it's reflected in. It's really not worth $5, you know. Well, it is in a way, but it's the product I'm going to buy that changes. That's what changes the value of this, right? A bottle of ketchup, for example, 2 years ago, I don't know, maybe it was $5. Well, now it's $5.95 or something. You know, so this piece of paper did become worth less. Yeah. So that making sense? So anyway, things change value, you know. And so ammo is kind of the same way, but just for convenience and for, gosh, some consistency, you know, the gun stores, whether it's Bass Pro or whoever, they know what this ammo, how to price it, and it comes in and they have to pay a certain amount for it, and maybe they jack it up 10% or 20 or 5. I don't know what the markup is at various places, but it comes in and it sells within a certain amount of time. So all that pricing and what they're pricing at it's okay before before the value of that money changes much, it's going to be sold, and whatever, just like gasoline comes into the tank and whatever the gas station has to pay for it, then they jack up the price to make a couple of 3 pennies. I don't think they make a lot on each. Most of that's tax. They don't make a lot on a gallon of gas, but then they sell it. And so they're based it on replacement costs as far as what they're selling it for. And anyway, economics is pretty I don't know, complicated, but it's something at least you have to think about. Supply and demand is the big thing. So anyway, that affects ammo. That's kind of what I'm getting at. If there's just not much out there and not much available, and it doesn't matter what the reason is. If it's because people are just buying it up immediately and it's not there, then for example, ammo is coming. It's being shipped. I know, because I know all the ammo manufacturers are making as fast as they can, but they ship it to a store, and if every gun store within 100 miles of me gets, I don't know, this week 1,000 rounds total, or 10,000, or whatever they get, how long is it staying in their store? About an hour, 2 hours. So you got like whatever 2-3% of the people are going in there and buying it. And then the other 90% of the people, or whatever, excuse me, they're walking in there, and boop, the shelves are bare, as usual. Shelves are bare. And so they're just perplexed. It seems like no ammo is being shipped to most people, because by the time they get to the store, which you can understand, there's none left. So, but ammo is getting out there. It's just not much, right? Or not enough. Put it that way, not enough. So. But anyway, supply and demand. So back to the word gouging. It really, there are some people gouging, I guess, but it's a subjective term. It's like an assault rifle in a way. It'd be careful of accusing somebody, that this, because of supply and demand. You don't know what the gun shop is paying for it, what they're having to pay for it, and how they're getting it. Are they just to have some ammo? They're going to gun broker and paying bigger prices, or what? I don't know how the distributor's doing it. I don't know. Based on the supply, the metals, and everything else it takes to make it. So that word gouging, I guess it's kind of a legal term when you get right down to it, but we use it just because we don't like the price somebody has on something, and maybe they're gouging, maybe they're not. Maybe a box of ammo or some ammo you have seen somewhere in a gun shop was like really higher than any of us have seen, maybe, for a box of 9mm. And what's it going for now if you find it? About $35, $40 or something. If maybe you see someone's got some for $75, he's gouging. Well, maybe some little shop, they don't have much buying clout, but he found some, they had to pay $60 for it, but they just wanted to have some on the shelf, because people buy a gun and they just needed some to have in the back, so when someone buys a gun, they could at least have a box to sell them or give them or whatever they're going to do. So they just had to pay the money. It's all they could find to get enough or whatever. So you don't know what they're paying for it. I don't know what they're paying for it. So I think we have to be careful with that term, is my point. Sometimes it's pretty clear, but we have to be careful with that particular word, I think, because we just don't know. And often it's the very people who, they've never been in any kind of business, have no appreciation for business, may even hate business. There are a lot of people like that. Don't know what it takes to keep the lights on, the overhead, the incredible overhead that you have in any kind of shop of any sort, the rent, the employees' salaries, the utilities, the taxes, and all that. So you don't stay in business unless you're covering all of that, and then plus having a profit, for you and your people, in order to stay in business. So I'm not trying to defend gougers. It's a word that I think we need to be careful about, just willy-nilly throwing around. And I think some people do that just because anything, costs more than they want to pay. There could be a big blow up in the Middle East or some kind of thing where oil would suddenly rise, which it is rising in price. Something causing shortages, whether political action or something in the Middle East, whatever's going on, and that's not happening as often these days because we're not as dependent on the Middle East. At least we were not. It might return to that, but if there was a war over there or someone going, or they got mad at us, they shut off some of the trade routes or whatever, then we have a serious shortage all of a sudden, then then things can happen quickly and prices can change, and it looks like gouging, but it's just supply and demand, So it's a complicated world, and I don't understand it all. What should I shoot next? Can I shoot this beautiful 22 again? This 22 Magnum is kind of nice. I have to be careful. I don't know how much of that I've got, but not a lot. I'm loading 5, just out of habit again. I could load 6, but I'm gonna load 5. With this, it's a little different than a 22, but I'm gonna go ahead and load 5. Plus I save a little ammo, right? This one is difficult to see if you've loaded. You need to really count, because it's hard to tell if you don't see the rim of that case to the left. Feels like a Colt, because it is. Nope, there I go again, flinching. I don't know if you can hear that. You notice it doesn't ring very much when you hit some of the steel. I think I'll shoot the bowling pin. It's all that one. And that's the thing about 22, especially 22 Magnum. Maybe the couple of the worst cartridges for that, getting feedback from steel and everything, especially in video or even not, are little, loud, fast cartridges. I noticed that especially with 22 Magnum and the little 5.7 cartridge, the FN cartridge, because here it is. Again, I should be charging y'all for this, no charge, but you're shooting something that's going to get there really fast. Almost as soon as the hammer hits the primer firing pin, it's there hitting that steel, making whatever noise on the steel, whatever ring it's going to make, right? Okay, follow me now. This is a physics lesson. So that's happening immediately, but guess what? The sound of the shot is still loud right here at the gun, isn't it? And so all that kind of blends together. Now, if you had a silencer, of course, if it's not super subsonic, a silencer wouldn't help. But if you could make the gun totally quiet, of course, it would make a nice ring. You'd hear it. But all that's happening at the same time. So why is it not all happening at the same time always? Well, because a lot of other rounds are slower, and so by the time they get to the steel, the gunfire is subsided just a little bit, and then plus it's a bigger bullet, so it maybe more of a ring on the steel anyway. So I noticed that with the 5.7. I remember the first time I fired one of those and was shooting a steel at the other range, I couldn't tell when I was hitting and when I was not. And on top of that, it doesn't do much to the steel. You can sort of see those because they're freshly painted and they're fairly close. But if you're shooting across the hill somewhere, the targets have been hit, maybe if some hits already on them, and you're shooting full metal jacket usually, or jacketed ammo with these kinds of rounds. And so you don't see a big lead splash. You can't tell, visually if you're hitting it. You can't hear it very well because this is so loud. You gotta have your ears on pretty tight because you're firing a loud round. Okay, so all those reasons, it really makes it less satisfying if you're, shooting steel. It really does. Like this gun is a little more fun to shoot with just regular 22s, I think, if I'm shooting steel. So there's that lesson. Another one I gave you for free about velocities, sounds, ballistics. So y'all thought I was kidding when I told you I used to teach at MIT. It was a physics professor. But no, I've just discovered that through shooting. So one of those lessons in life, in the shooting life. What else? Let me give some young people some advice, and I'll maybe get out of your hair here. It's so lucky the weather is nice. I may not miss a week, because of weather. I may miss a week because of a trip or something. And I did come out one day and did some shooting with a Mauser. I'll give you a little warning. And I did it over here, and kind of got it in the bank if I do get out traveling or something. And so it won't be as timely as all the other weeks have been, but that's okay. At least you'll get to see me, right? Okay. and just a enjoyable shoot. I might do that again sometime, so I'll have a couple of those in the bank just in case. They might put me in the mental hospital for a month or two, that way I won't have to miss Sunday shoot around, every Sunday, but or you won't have to miss. But yeah, I mean, like tomorrow, the next day, if the weather's like this or whatever, I'm always bringing a firearm out and enjoying it, and so I may just bring the camera out if I do that. So, but anyway, I'll let you know. You'll know. I've got a date. I've got a target. One of the reasons for doing that is so it's timely, and so anyway. Yeah, advice for young people. Man, do I have any advice? I don't know. Yeah, I do have one piece of advice. Be careful. I've talked about this. Don't be too gullible in general in your life. Realize when people are kidding, and don't take life too seriously. Realize that people do kid, and they're not being serious sometimes, and don't fall for just anything, because sometimes it's hard to tell, when somebody's serious or not. I used to have fun with my students. Of course, middle school students, it was really kind of heartless, wasn't it? It was not really fair, because I was sort of at an advantage being a semi-mature adult, and here they're just 12, 13 years old, and so I'd take advantage of that situation, and I would just say things like, I remember talking about the dictionary. So when I go back, we had hard copy dictionaries, and different things, and I would just point out to them, just kind of off the cuff, that, man, it's a nice dictionary. It's so nice now they're alphabetized. I remember, when I was in school, or, not all that long ago, the dictionary had all the same words, but they weren't alphabetized. It took so long to find a word. I would just say it like that. About half the class would kind of believe it. I did things like, I was really bad. One of my favorite things to do was, exams were a big deal. Midterm exams and final exams, just like your college exams. If you went to college, they counted, 20% of the semester grade. So exams were a big deal. Because we'd have a review for it, 2 or 3 days maybe, and then exam, they'd come in for exams just like college exams. Just come in the morning for 2 exams, and the next day for an exam, the next day for 2, that kind of deal. And they would take like a couple hours each exam. But so they were pretty nervous about that, of course, and I took great pains to make a really good exam, but a fair exam, not seize the moment to try to fail people or anything like that, but still a thorough and extensive exam, and I a couple days for a regular class before the exam, I would remind them, okay, now you'll be reviewing, be reviewing weeks on certain things. You need to be looking over some things, even if you have good grades, and here's some things. And I'd give them review sheets of different lists or of literary terms or whatever it might be. Just make sure you've reviewed these and everything. There's no tricks on the test. I say, if you have done pretty well, you'll probably do pretty well in the exam if you review, because there's just a lot of material from the whole semester. Everything. I said, I got the key. I did the key last night. I'd made out the key very, very carefully, because it's got to be right. I said the test it's not easy. I said the first time I did the key, I got an 87, so I had to redo it. But I think I got them all right. Maybe the next time. I would just say that just a serious, it was a heart attack, and there'd be several. Well, how are we going? What? They'd just be perplexed that I took the exam and I made an 87, and sometimes I'd say a 79 or something. I used to love doing that. In one semester, I'll never forget, I had this little girl. She might have been, had the highest average in the class. Just a sharp. She was smarter than I was. She was sharp. Like that was something unusual. There were a lot of the kids that were smarter than I was. Good thing they were younger, right? And I had some maturity, so I could fool them. But anyway, in fact, she was the daughter of someone I had taught years before at my first incarnation teaching in the 70s. Okay, so it's kind of neat having her in class. It showed how old I was even then, and that happened several times. I taught the children of former 7th grade students I had taught in the 70s. Does that tell you how old I am? That's another thing I'd get them with too. But anyway, this girl, I gave that line just like I did. I made the key out last night. It's a fair test. It's kind of hard. I made a, whatever. I think I might have said an 84. I made an 84 on it. And last night when I took the key, and so you need to really make sure you're reviewing. And most of them get it. They know me by then. By exam time, they sort of know me, but not quite. I'm pretty good fooling. And I'm pretty good at testing gullibility. And I'll never forget, she was a delightful child too, just a great gal. And I never saw her, be mean or upset or anything like that. But I mean to tell you, when I said that, her hand went up as high, almost touched the ceiling. And her eyes are big. And I said, well, what's up, Lindsay? She's, Mr. So-so, if you made an 84, how do you expect us to make a good grade on this? And she was mad. She was legitimately mad. I'd never seen her like that. It really took me back. It was great. And so I had to calm her down. I'm just kidding, Lindsay. Just kidding. That was a joke. And the others were same time. He's joking. But I make fun of her over that. I've told that story before. But then again, I'm not really making fun of her, because that was kind of indicative of the drive she had. She was driven to not be surprised on a test or defeated. That's why she was an honor student and had either the highest or one of the very highest averages, in the class, all the classes. She was a superb student, one of the best in the school. And that's why, though, you're just not going to get anything past her. She was just aggressive about her studies and everything, and to the point where she couldn't even take a joke. She didn't get that. She didn't know that I was joking. So that was kind of funny. That reminded me of something else, but I won't get into it now. Forgot what it was anyway. So anyway, try not to be too gullible. Just think things through. Once you get to know people, you kind of know if they're saying something out of character too, don't you? That was a little bit different maybe, but you kind of know. Just like I've told you before with the students, I would, when class was starting, quite often, I close the door and paper's blown away. I might close. All right, you ugly kids or whatever. I said, how did you all get so ugly? You're even uglier than you were yesterday. I'll just be serious. It was a heart attack. But they knew it. That was just me. And they knew I really liked them. And so it's not a big deal. So many things could be taken out of context that I probably said. I could be arrested probably. Not arrested, but I sound like a mean old man. The mean old man I actually am. So, I don't know, there's probably nothing else I know. I know what. I heard somebody, was it in a comment or it was in some of the anti-gun stuff, that same old tired line, and I'll let you go here, take a shot maybe, but I think it was a comment I saw, Facebook or somewhere, a gun in the home is 41%, whatever the percentage is that the anti-gunners throw out there, more likely to kill somebody in the family than it is to kill a burglar or whatever that line is. That line is so dumb. That is, and they probably know it, but it's almost as bad as that rationale. Well, you have to have controls. You can't. There's controls on the First Amendment too. You can't shout fire in the crowded theater, so you don't necessarily get to have an assault rifle or whatever they want to ban. Well, that's faulty logic as well. Yeah, you can shout fire in a crowded theater. I can go do it this afternoon if any of the theaters are open. I can go to a mall or somewhere where there's a big crowd of people, and guess what I can do? I can shout fire as loud as I possibly can. Can I? Yeah, you can do that. But guess what? There's ramifications. There are consequences for that. I'm in trouble. I might be in jail over that. Okay? Yeah, so you can do it. Unless they tape up your mouth with duct tape before you go in, then you can't. Okay, if that's what you're talking about, limiting the First Amendment and just putting a big piece of duct tape on people's mouths before they go into a movie theater, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what you're talking about, limiting the ability to shout fire, so then you're limiting the capability. Yeah, that's what they want to do with gun control. They want to limit the possibility. Yeah, somebody can go murder somebody right now, but there are consequences. Yeah, so it's just a faulty logic. In this business about a firearm in the home is more likely to kill somebody in the home and all that kind of thing. Well, yeah, maybe so, than it is to shoot a burglar. I don't know how many people shoot burglars. For one thing, firearms are used, like, was it millions of times, like a day or a week, to thwart crime, to run off somebody who meant you harm, okay, without ever firing it, okay, and then sometimes firing it, right, okay? So that's all out there that nobody wants to admit. But then again, that's kind of like saying that, I don't know I know the rate of suicide among cops is kind of high. For whatever reasons, I'm not going to get into all that, but just I know it's higher, I think, than the average public for whatever reason. Just like, our veterans kind of, but so isn't that a little bit like saying, and I don't know if the numbers would jive the same way, but the logic there would be kind of similar, saying, well, cops shouldn't be carrying a gun. They're more likely to commit suicide with they are to shoot a murderer or something. Oh, okay. Well, then let's not let them carry guns. Let's not let you have a gun in your house to ward off maybe a home invasion or a murder, whatever it is, to protect yourself, because there is that chance that you're irresponsible or you don't have it locked up or whatever, and or somebody in the house commits suicide or whatever. So let's not let people have a gun in their house, duh. So we'd have to look at the numbers of how many times somebody is protected by a firearm before we could even talk about numbers and math. But yet they start throwing out this statistic that, well, a gun is more likely 41 times or whatever the percentage is to kill somebody, an innocent person, and all that sort of thing. Isn't that a little bit like saying, like that fire extinguisher I have in my car, for example? I keep one in the house too. That fire extinguisher I have in the house, right there handy in the kitchen. It's about that high. It's a nice one. You shouldn't have that. It's more likely to fall on somebody and break their toe, fall over and break somebody's toe, than it is to put a fire out in your house. I've always had a fire extinguisher like that. I've never had put out a fire in my house. So yeah, you're probably right. It is. In fact, I think I have banged my toe, or maybe it's more likely to hurt somebody in the house than it is to put a fire out. So get rid of it. I we could come up with a lot of different analogies, with cars and with ladders and different things that people get hurt on. Just silly. So be careful of what you hear. If you're kind of maybe you're a new viewer, you're on the fence, you're not even a serious gun person, but you enjoy kind of watching some of the firearms being displayed and everything, you're not even sure you're going to buy one or be a shooter. And we have a lot of viewers like that, because I can tell from comments and messages I get. You don't have to. No law says you have to own a firearm and make that your hobby or anything, your life's endeavor. But just be aware of some of the crazy logic out there and what people's agendas are. As I remind you of that quite often. People have agendas. Do I need to tell you that? If we haven't learned that from politics lately, I don't know when we're ever going to learn it. Everybody has an agenda, and they can't see past it, right? And then all of us are possibly guilty of that, right? So we have to check ourselves. But wow, it's just so obvious and so shallow with so many people these days. So anyway, that's enough on that. I'm going to take a shot before I let you go. Can I shoot the Krag again? Again, look at that action. Is that a beautiful thing or what? This one is an 1899. You've seen the video probably, some of you. If not, look it up. U.S. model 1899, Springfield Armory. This is made at the Springfield Armory, the Springfield Armory now, the U.S. Arsenal, not the gun company, Springfield Armory. Two different things. And so it's 1890. I think this one was actually made in like 1901. I have to look it up again. This was not used in the Spanish-American War because it was, what, 1898 for a year or two there. So, but it's the same gun, the 3040 Krag. And again, it's really criticized a lot because Mauser was so much better and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. We go overboard. What am I doing? Putting it wrong. We really go overboard with things like that, don't we? We humans. I mean, and again, I blame some of that on social media. Everything is either black or white. Everything is either all the way this way or all the way that way. It seems like we just, as humans, have gotten more and more and more opinionated or something. You know, it's just this is whatever we're talking about. It's got ass worthless or it's stupid. You know, never anything in the middle. It seems like yeah, there's probably better rifles than this maybe, but this one's pretty nice. How about that? It's really an interesting loading system. I'll hold it up here, maybe you can see it better. You should have already seen it if you've been around. And that's the beauty. You don't have to have been around very long. We got over 2,000 videos. If you're new, I expect you to have watched all of them by next week, okay? Get you a bunch of popcorn and get at it. All right, let's shoot. I think I just put 4 in. Did I miss? Didn't that time. I'm gonna shoot this paper. Better not shoot that too close. I see a 2-liter down there I missed so far. See, it will blow a 2-liter, so that ain't all bad. If it'll blow a 2-liter, I don't want it coming at me, okay? So anyway, a couple of interesting guns. I was interested in shooting this a little more because when I send it back to Simpson Limited, you know, I won't have it. And I've come close to buying these before. I don't know, I'm tempted on this one. I guess I'll send it back, but so it'll be there. It's they're kind of neat, you know, because they have the same feel. The grip feels just like a regular Colt single action Army, but the weight of it is a little bit lighter, and although it's got some weight because, you know, the barrel is thicker for a 22, doesn't have as big a hole in it. Okay, so you got a fair amount of weight there, and but it's a smaller scale, but plenty big, and pretty cool. Pretty cool. There's a little different configuration on it. It doesn't have the cross pin. It has a screw. You actually kind of like a black powder frame, except the screw is right there. But on the side, you use a screwdriver, take that out, and pull out the base pin and the cylinder. And I actually kind of like that. I've had these guns before, various Colts or whatever. And it seems like often the cross pin and the spring is you got to push it in there as hard as you can, or you don't get it far enough, and it's hard to get the pin out, and sometimes it just gets out of kilter. So no problem. The only time you're taking that out is when you're changing the cylinder, you're cleaning it, so not that big a deal. I don't mind taking it out, just like a Colt single action Army black powder frame. Some people probably look at that and say, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know, what a pain that would be. You got to get a screwdriver and take that screw out instead of just pushing this button and pulling that out. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. So anyway, Colt Frontier Scout and a Krag carbine. Actually, a couple of different guns. What got me thinking, somebody said on I think it was last week, said, next week you ought to get out a gun that's the longest, how he phrased it, the firearm you haven't fired for the longest time. Whichever gun has been neglected the longest time of mine, okay? I got thinking about that. I don't know, gosh, which one would that be? I'll put some more thought into that. Maybe bring it out next week or another time, but this one is close. I know I haven't had the Krag out in a long time, and it'd be cool to shoot it because I've got a little ammo, so I got it out. But I'll put some more thought into that. If I come to a decision on that, yeah, well, it'd be a guess, but I might come closer as I think about that. There's guns that I know I've not fired in years, and this one, in fact, it may have been a couple of years since I had fired this one. So pretty cool, pretty cool. So I guess I'll let you go. And again, let me show you that cartridge though. That's the Krag cartridge, 3040 Krag. That's what the military went to, 1892. Went away from the 4570 trapdoor Springfield and went to the smokeless powder and the Krag carbine. So up until about the the 03 Springfield 30-06, pretty much. So yeah, I'll talk to you next week, and I appreciate your support. Seemed like there was something I forgot to enlighten you on, but that's okay. You all have a great week. Hopefully we'll have some decent weather again next week, and I'll be able to come out here more comfortably most weeks. Although it's still February, so there's going to be some really blustery, cold, weather, of course. So you all take care. Hope you get a chance to, at least fondle your firearms, like I mentioned in the how not to own a gun. Be sure you're getting that thing out there and cleaning it and making sure you're keeping your firearms in good shape. It's a good chance for that, especially, that video was more so for new shooters, but new gun owners, but really for all of us. I say that often, even if we're not going to shoot and we're not buying much ammo or the weather's really bad, it's a great time. Get out the card table, maybe even in the living room if you can do that, or somewhere. You don't have to go to the garage or something, and just take a couple of your favorite firearms, and you haven't thoroughly cleaned. Maybe you've not done that 100% clean job on them in a good while. You just kind of field strip them and give them a decent cleaning and go on. It doesn't hurt. You might uncover some crud you were not aware of, especially with the modern semi-automatic pistols. I think I've told you all, I was amazed. I shot Glock, well, it was mainly a Glock 40, I guess, the Glock 23 that I shot so much in the 90s and carried everything. And I was bad about taking apart the slide. And I know I'd probably shot it for years, and I finally, in competition and everything, carried it. I took that slide apart, and the striker pin out and all that. And boy, that striker channel was full of brass, little flecks of brass, and some crud. Whoa! And so and ever since then, about once a year, if it's a carry gun or defensive firearm that's going to be placed around for that or whatever, I like to take that. Just nothing. Maybe if I have nothing else to do, which never happens, but just turn the radio on, get on the loading bench or whatever, and just some alcohol and Q-tips and everything, and take that slide apart, clean out that, make sure that firing pin channel is clean, and just all of that. And don't use lube. Don't use any lube there, and just keep it dry. Make sure the places that are supposed to be dry are dry. So I'm gonna let you go, and I'll see you next week. Y'all try to behave yourselves. You know what I did? I dropped my remote down here somewhere. There it is. And that way I can just cut you all off and you all go away just at the right moment. It's pretty amazing how technology works, isn't it? So thanks for coming out and sharing a little time in the woods with me again. Behave yourselves. Life is good.